Lila lived on the edge of a quiet village where the houses were made of stone and the fields stretched out under a wide sky. Her little home was simple, with a roof that leaked a bit when it rained and walls lined with shelves of dried herbs. She was the healer everyone turned to, young with kind eyes and hands that seemed to know just what to do. People came to her with fevers, cuts from working the land, or even a broken heart after a fight with a loved one. She always had a smile and a remedy, passed down from her grandmother, who had been the healer before her. It was a cold evening when the trouble started. The wind was blowing hard, carrying the smell of wet earth and rain. Lila was inside, stirring a pot of vegetable soup over the fire. The warmth felt good against the chill, and she hummed a little tune her mother used to sing. Then came the knock, 3 sharp raps on her wooden door. She set the spoon down, wiped her hands on her apron, and opened it, expecting maybe old Mrs. Carter with a sore back or little Tommy with a scraped knee. But the man standing there wasn't from the village. He was tall, with broad shoulders that seemed to fill the doorway. His dark hair was wet and stuck to his face, and his clothes, black and torn, hung off him like he'd been running through the woods. He leaned against the frame, breathing heavy, and his eyes caught the light of her lantern. They were a deep gray, almost glowing, and for a second she couldn't look away. Then he stumbled forward, nearly falling. "Please," he said, his voice rough but clear. "I need help." Lila didn't think twice. She grabbed his arm and pulled him inside, kicking the door shut against the wind. He was heavy, and she had to brace herself as she guided him to the chair by the fire. Up close, she saw the blood, dark and wet, soaking through his shirt on the left side. Her heart jumped, but she kept calm. She ran to her shelves, grabbing a clean cloth, a bowl of water, and a jar of moonflower salve she'd mixed a few days ago. It was her special recipe, something her grandmother had said was for the worst hurts. "Sit still," she said, kneeling beside him. She took a small knife and carefully cut away his shirt, peeling it back to see the wound. It was deep, jagged like something had clawed at him, and she frowned. He didn't cry out, just clenched his jaw as she cleaned it with water, the pinkish liquid running into the bowl. Her hands moved fast, spreading the salve over the cut. The room filled with its sweet, sharp smell, and she noticed how still he was, like he was holding his breath. "What happened to you?" she asked, wrapping the cloth around his side and tying it tight. He looked at her, his eyes narrowing for a moment. "An animal," he said, "in the woods." "I didn't see it coming." Lila nodded, but something felt off. The woods around the village were peaceful. Deer and rabbits, maybe a fox now and then. Nothing that could leave a mark like that. She kept her thoughts to herself, though. Healing came first. She stood up, brushing her hands on her apron. "You're lucky," she said. "This could have been bad." "You should stay here tonight. The storm's not letting up." He gave a small nod. "Thank you. Lila, is it?" She blinked, surprised. "Yes. How did you know?" "People talk," he said with a faint smile. "I'm Ronan." "Just Ronan." Lila showed him to the spare bed in the corner, a pile of blankets she kept for sick villagers. He lay down, and she noticed how quiet he was, almost too still. She went back to her soup, stirring it as the fire crackled, the rain tapped on the roof, and the night stretched out long and dark. Lila woke to the sound of the fire dying down. The storm had passed, leaving a heavy silence. She rubbed her eyes and looked over at Ronan. He was awake, his eyes open and watching her. It gave her a funny feeling, like a shiver down her back, but she brushed it off. "You're up," she said, sitting up on her chair. "How do you feel?" "Better," he replied. His voice was stronger now, and he sat up slowly, wincing just a little. "Your medicine works fast?" Lila smiled. "It's an old trick. My grandmother taught me." She got up and checked his bandage. The bleeding had stopped, and the skin around the wound looked less angry. She was happy with that, but it struck her how quick he was healing. Most people took days to get this far. "You're not from around here, are you?" she asked, sitting back down. "No," Ronan said. "I'm just passing through, looking for something I lost a while back." Lila tilted her head. "What's that?" He paused, his eyes getting darker. "A piece of my past. It's hard to explain." She didn't push. Travelers came through the village all the time, some running from trouble, some just looking for a new start. She figured Ronan was one of those. She offered him some soup, and he took it, eating slow. He had a strange way about him, polite, like he wasn't used to being around folks. As the morning light crept in, Lila stepped outside to pick more herbs. Ronan stayed inside, saying he needed to rest. She didn't mind. The village was waking up, and she waved to a few neighbors as she worked. Old Man Harris with his cow, little Sarah chasing a chicken. But when she came back, she found Ronan standing by her shelves, holding the jar of moonflower salve. He looked up quick, like he'd been caught doing something wrong. "Just looking," he said. "It smells familiar." Lila frowned. "It's just herbs. Nothing special." "Maybe," he said, setting it down, but his eyes lingered on it a bit longer. That day, Ronan kept quiet. Lila went about her chores, mixing medicines, checking on a sick baby down the road, but she felt his eyes on her now and then. When night fell, she locked the door and went to bed, not knowing the stranger in her house was hiding more than she could guess. Lila slept lightly that night, the creaks of her old house keeping her on edge. The fire had burned down to embers, casting faint shadows on the walls. She woke again around midnight, the silence broken by a soft rustling. She sat up, peering through the dim light, and saw Ronan standing by the window. He was looking out at the dark woods, his figure still as a statue. The bandage on his side was untouched, but she wondered if he was in pain. "Can't sleep?" she asked, her voice soft so as not to startle him. He turned his head slightly, his eyes catching the firelight. "Not much," he said. "Old habits?" "I don't rest easy in new places." Lila nodded, pulling her blanket tighter around her shoulders. "The woods can be strange at night." "You're safe here, though." Ronan gave a small smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Safe is a tricky word," he muttered, turning back to the window. She didn't know what he meant, but something in his tone made her uneasy. She watched him for a moment longer, then lay back down, the sound of the wind filling her ears as she drifted off. The next morning, the sun peeked through the curtains, and Lila woke to the smell of bread baking in the village. She got up, stretching her stiff muscles, and found Ronan sitting by the fire again. He'd added a log, and the room was warm. He looked better. His color was back, and the tension in his face had eased. "Feeling stronger?" she asked, moving to check his bandage. "Much," he said, lifting his shirt so she could see. The wound was already closing, a thin pink line where the deep cut had been. Lila stared, her hands pausing midair. That wasn't normal. Even with her best salve, it should have taken weeks, not a day. "How?" she started, but Ronan pulled his shirt down quick, his expression hard. "I heal fast," he said simply. "Always have." Lila wanted to ask more, but the look in his eyes stopped her. She nodded and went to make breakfast, some bread and cheese she had on hand. They ate in silence, the crackle of the fire the only sound. After, she decided to head into the village to check on her patients. She told Ronan he could stay, and he agreed, saying he'd rest more. As she walked through the muddy paths, Lila couldn't shake the feeling that Ronan was hiding something big. The way he moved, the way he watched her, it was different from anyone she'd met. She visited old Mrs. Carter, who was feeling better, and little Tommy, whose knee was healing nicely. But her mind kept drifting back to her house and the stranger inside. When she returned, the sun was dipping low, painting the sky orange. Ronan was outside, chopping wood with an axe she kept for emergencies. His movements were smooth, almost too perfect, and she stood watching for a moment. He noticed her and stopped, wiping sweat from his brow. "Thought I'd earned my keep," he said with a shrug. Lila smiled. "Thanks. That'll help when winter comes." They carried the wood inside, stacking it by the fire. As they worked, Lila noticed how strong he was, lifting logs she could barely move with one hand. It made her wonder again about his story. An animal attack didn't explain that kind of strength. She decided to keep an eye on him just to be sure. That night, they sat by the fire, and Lila offered him tea. He took it, holding the cup like it was something new to him. "You're kind," he said after a while. "Not many would take in a stranger like me." "Everyone deserves help," she replied, "long as you're not trouble." He chuckled, a low sound. "I'll try not to be." But as the fire died down and they went to bed, Lila felt a strange pull toward him. It wasn't just curiosity. It was something deeper, like a connection she couldn't name. She pushed it away and closed her eyes, the night wrapping around her little house. The next day brought trouble. Lila was outside, gathering herbs in the early morning light, when she heard a growl. She turned and froze. A wolf stood at the edge of her yard, big, gray, and baring its teeth. Her heart pounded. Wolves didn't come this close, not unless something was wrong. She reached for her broom, ready to scare it off, but before she could move, Ronan was there. He moved so fast she barely saw it. 1 second he was inside, the next he was in front of the wolf, grabbing it by the neck. With a grunt, he threw it into the woods, and it yelped, running off into the trees. Lila stared, her broom falling to the ground. "How did you—" she stammered, her voice shaky. Ronan turned to her, his face pale but calm. "I've dealt with them before," he said. But his hands trembled, and she caught a glimpse of something in his mouth. Sharp points, like teeth. She stepped back, her breath catching. "You're not just a traveler, are you?" He looked at her for a long moment, then let out a slow breath. "No, I'm not. But I won't hurt you, Lila. I swear it." "Then what are you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ronan stepped into the light, and she saw it clear as day. His skin didn't warm under the sun, and his eyes had that glow again. "I'm a vampire," he said quietly, "an alpha of my kind, and I came here looking for something your village has." Lila's mind raced. Vampires were tales her grandmother told, scary stories about dark creatures who drank blood and stayed away from people. But here was Ronan, standing in her yard, saving her from a wolf. She didn't know what to believe. "What do you mean, my village?" she asked, her hands clenching. Ronan's face grew serious. "Your people have a stone, red, with power in it. It was taken from my clan a long time ago. I've been tracking it here." Lila shook her head. "I don't know about any stone. We're just simple folks here." "Maybe you don't," Ronan said, "but your elders do. I can feel it. And that salve you used, it's made from moonflower, a plant tied to my kind. Your family knows more than you think." Lila felt a cold shiver. Her grandmother had always been quiet about the moonflower, saying it was for special cases only. Was Ronan right? She didn't want to trust him, but the way he moved, the way he healed, it all made sense now. "I need time to think," she said, turning away. But deep down, she knew this was only the start of something big. Lila stood in her yard, the morning sun warming her back, but she felt cold inside. Ronan's words echoed in her head. Vampire, stone, her village's secrets. She glanced at him, still standing there, his tall figure casting a long shadow. His gray eyes watched her, waiting for her to say something. She didn't know what to do. Part of her wanted to run to the village and tell everyone, but another part, the healer in her, felt drawn to help him, just like she had when he first showed up. "Give me a minute," she said, turning toward the house. She needed space to think, to figure out if she could believe him. Inside, she leaned against the table, her hands shaking. The jar of moonflower salve sat on the shelf, and she picked it up, turning it over in her hands. Her grandmother had always been secretive about it, mixing it late at night when no one was around. Maybe there was truth in what Ronan said. She walked back outside, holding the jar. "This salve," she started, her voice steadying. "My grandmother said it was special. She never told me why. If you're right about the moonflower, maybe you're right about the stone, too." Ronan nodded, stepping closer, but keeping his distance. "It's a plant my kind used long ago. It grows where we've been, where our blood touched the earth. Your family must have kept it alive, maybe to protect themselves, or to hide something." Lila frowned. "Protect themselves from what?" "From us," he said simply. "My clan was strong once, but we were betrayed. The stone was taken, and it weakened us. I've been searching for it for years, following whispers until I got here." She looked at him, trying to read his face. He didn't seem like the monsters from her grandmother's stories, cold, cruel things that killed without a thought. Ronan had saved her from the wolf, and his voice carried a weight of sadness, not anger. Still, she wasn't ready to trust him fully. "I need to know more," she said. "If this stone's here, I can't just hand it over without understanding why." "Fair enough," Ronan replied. "I'll tell you what I know. But we should be careful. If your elders are hiding it, they won't like us asking questions." Lila agreed. Though her stomach twisted with nerves, she invited him back inside, and they sat by the fire. He told her about his past, how his clan lived in the mountains, ruling over the land with strength and pride. But a fight with another group, humans who feared them, led to a battle. The stone, he said, was their source of power, a red gem that let them control their hunger and stay strong. When it was stolen, his people scattered, cursed to wander and weaken. "I'm the last alpha," he said, staring into the flames. "It's my job to get it back, to save what's left of us." Lila listened, her hands folded in her lap. It sounded like a story, but the way he spoke, quiet and sure, made her believe him. "Why my village?" she asked. "Your family was part of the fight," he said. "Not you, but your ancestors. They took the stone and hid it, maybe to keep the peace or to use its power. I don't know which." Lila felt a lump in her throat. Her grandmother had never mentioned any of this, but the old woman had always been quiet about the past. Maybe she'd been protecting her. "If it's here," Lila said, "we'll find it. But I'm not promising anything." Ronan nodded. "That's all I ask." That day, they started looking. Lila went through her grandmother's things, old boxes in the attic, a trunk under her bed. She found letters, recipes for medicines, a faded picture of her grandmother with a serious look, but no stone. Ronan helped, his hands careful as he lifted heavy things she couldn't move alone. They worked in silence, the only sound the creak of the floorboards. By evening, they had nothing. Layla sat on the floor, tired and frustrated. "Maybe it's not here," she said. "Maybe the elders really do have it." "Could be," Ronan said, sitting across from her. "We could ask them, but they won't talk easy." Lila sighed. "I know. Old Thomas, he's the head elder. He doesn't like strangers. He'll shut the door in our faces." "Then we'll need a plan," Ronan said. "Something to make him talk without causing a fight." Lila thought for a moment. "There's a meeting tomorrow night. All the elders go to the hall to talk about the harvest. We could go, see if we can get close." Ronan's eyes narrowed. "Risky. But it might work." They agreed to try, and as the fire burned low, Lila felt a mix of fear and excitement. She didn't know what they'd find, but she knew her life was changing. She went to bed, Ronan taking the chair by the fire, and the night passed with the sound of crickets outside. The next day, Lila went about her work, her mind on the meeting. She visited patients, handed out medicines, and smiled at the villagers, but inside she was nervous. Ronan stayed at the house, keeping out of sight. She told him to rest, but she suspected he was watching the village from the windows. As dusk fell, they got ready. Lila wore a plain dress and a shawl, trying to look like she was just there for the meeting. Ronan pulled his hood up, hiding his face in the shadows. They walked to the village hall, a big building with wooden walls and a high roof. Lights glowed inside, and voices carried out into the cool air. "Stay close," Lila whispered as they slipped in through the back. The room was full of elders, old men and women with wrinkled faces, sitting around a long table. Thomas was at the head, his white hair catching the candlelight. Lila found a spot near the wall, Ronan beside her, his presence like a quiet storm. The meeting dragged on. Talk of crops, repairs, the upcoming winter. Lila waited, her hands twisting the edge of her shawl. Finally, there was a break, and people stood to stretch. She saw her chance. She moved toward Thomas, Ronan following a step behind. "Thomas," she said, keeping her voice low. "Can I talk to you?" "It's about my grandmother." He turned, his eyes narrowing. "What about her, Lila?" "Something she left behind," she said. "A stone. I think it's important." Thomas's face went hard. "You shouldn't dig into that." "It's better left alone." "But it's mine to know," she pressed. "And he," she nodded at Ronan, "says it belongs to him." Ronan stepped forward, lowering his hood just enough to show his eyes. "I mean, no harm," he said. "I just want what's mine." Thomas paled, his hand gripping the table. "You're one of them," he whispered. "Get out." "Both of you." The door slammed as he turned away, and the room grew quiet. Layla felt the stares of the other elders, their whispers starting. She grabbed Ronan's arm and pulled him outside, her heart racing. "They know," she said, breathing hard. "They've got it hidden somewhere." Ronan nodded, his jaw tight. "We'll find it another way." Lila and Ronan hurried back through the dark village paths, their footsteps quiet on the damp ground. The air was cool, and Lila could hear the distant hoot of an owl in the woods. Her mind raced. Thomas's reaction had been too strong. Fear in his eyes, not just anger. It confirmed what Ronan said. The elders were hiding something big. She glanced at Ronan, his hood pulled low again, his face set in a determined line. "What now?" she whispered as they reached her house. She pushed the door open, the warmth of the fire greeting them. Ronan stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "We can't stop." "If they know we're looking, they might move the stone or guard it better. We need to think where they'd hide it." Lila nodded, lighting a candle on the table. She paced the room, thinking of places in the village she knew. The hall was too public. The fields were open. Then it hit her, the old temple on the hill, just outside the village. It was crumbling, overgrown with vines and weeds, a place no one went anymore. Her grandmother had taken her there as a child, telling stories about the past, but always warning her to stay away as she got older. "The temple," she said, stopping. "It's old, forgotten." If they wanted to hide something, that could be it. Ronan's eyes lit up. "Makes sense. Temples often hold secrets. We should check tonight, while the elders are still at the meeting." Lila hesitated. The temple gave her a bad feeling, dark and lonely, with whispers of ghosts in the stories, but she nodded. "All right, let's go." They grabbed a lantern and slipped out into the night. The path to the hill was narrow, winding through tall grass that brushed their legs. Ronan led the way, his steps sure, even in the dark. Lila followed, holding the lantern high, its light dancing on the ground. The moon was half full, casting a pale glow over everything. As they reached the temple, Lila felt a chill. The building was stone, with broken windows and a door hanging off its hinges. Vines crawled up the walls like fingers, and the air smelled of damp earth and old dust. Ronan pushed the door open, and they stepped inside. The lantern light showed faded paintings on the walls, pictures of people and animals, some kind of old tales. Where do we start? Lila asked, her voice echoing a little. Ronan looked around, looked for hidden spots, loose stones, altars, anything out of place. They searched, Lila checking the walls while Ronan lifted heavy benches. Dust floated in the air, making her cough. Minutes turned into an hour, and they found nothing. Lila was starting to think she was wrong when she noticed a crack in the floor under the main altar. She knelt down, running her fingers over it. It felt loose. "Here," she said, "help me move this." Ronan came over, and together they pushed the altar aside. Underneath was a small hole, and inside it, a wooden box covered in dust. Lila's heart pounded as she lifted it out. She opened it carefully, and there it was, the stone. It was red, about the size of her fist, smooth and glowing faintly in the lantern light. "You found it," Ronan said, his voice full of wonder. He reached out, but stopped, looking at her. "It's yours to give, Lila." She held it, feeling a warmth spread through her fingers. It didn't feel dangerous, just powerful, like it held stories inside. "What happens if you take it?" she asked. "My clan gets strong again," he said. "The curse lifts. But I don't know what it means for your village. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything." Lila looked at the stone, then at Ronan. She'd trusted him this far. "Take it," she said, handing it over. The moment Ronan touched it, the ground shook. Lila stumbled, grabbing the altar for balance. Shadows moved outside the windows, and a low growl filled the air. Ronan's eyes widened. "They've found us." "My enemies? They must have been watching." Lila peered out and saw shapes in the dark, figures with pale skin and glowing eyes, just like Ronan's. Vampires. "What do we do?" she asked. Fear tight in her chest. "Fight," Ronan said, tucking the stone into his coat. "Or run." "Stay behind me." 3 vampires burst through the door, hissing and baring fangs. They were fast, lunging at Ronan. He moved like a blur, tackling one and slamming it against the wall. Lila backed up, her heart racing. She grabbed a loose stone from the floor and threw it at another, hitting its head. It snarled and turned toward her. Ronan was there in an instant, grabbing the vampire and twisting its neck with a crack. The third one jumped on him, claws raking his back. Ronan growled, throwing it off and finishing it with a punch that echoed in the temple. Breathing hard, he turned to Lila. "You okay?" She nodded, though her hands shook. "Yeah, but we need to go." They ran out into the night, the stone safe in Ronan's pocket. The village lights twinkled below, but Lila knew they couldn't go back. Not yet. The elders would hear about this, and the vampires might come again. They hid in the woods, catching their breath under a big tree. "Thank you," Ronan said, his voice soft, "for trusting me." Lila looked at him, the adrenaline still pumping. "I didn't have much choice, but I believe you now." He smiled, a real one this time. "Good, because this isn't over." The next morning, Lila and Ronan woke to the sound of birds. They'd slept in the woods, hidden by bushes, the stone between them. Lila's body ached from the hard ground, but her mind was clear. She knew what they had to do. Get the stone to Ronan's clan wherever they were. "Where do we go?" she asked, brushing leaves from her dress. "North," Ronan said. "To the mountains." "It's a few days' walk, but we'll have to watch for more attacks." Lila nodded. She'd never left the village before, but the thought didn't scare her as much as it should. They set off, keeping off the main paths, sticking to the trees. Ronan led, his senses sharp. He heard things she didn't, rustles in the bushes, distant footsteps. As they walked, they talked. Ronan told her more about his life, centuries old, full of loss and fights. "Being alpha means protecting everyone," he said, "but it's lonely." Lila shared her stories too, growing up without parents, learning healing from her grandmother. "I always felt like something was missing," she said. "Maybe this is why." By afternoon, they reached a stream and stopped to rest. Lila splashed water on her face, the coolness refreshing. Ronan sat on a rock, the stone in his hand, turning it over. "It feels right," he said, "like coming home." But as the sun dipped lower, trouble came. A group of vampires, 5 this time, stepped out from the trees. They were led by a tall one with a scar on his face. "Give us the stone, Alpha," he snarled. "It's ours now." Ronan stood, fangs bared. "Over my body." The fight was fierce. Ronan took on 3 at once, his speed and strength a match for them. Lila hid behind a tree, but one vampire spotted her and charged. She grabbed a branch and swung it, hitting its side. It laughed, grabbing her arm. Ronan roared, breaking free and tackling it. He finished the others, blood on his clothes, but he was hurt, a deep cut on his arm. Lila rushed to him, tearing her shawl to wrap it. "You saved me again," she said. He winced but smiled. "We're in this together now." They kept moving, the danger making them closer. That night, by a small fire, Lila felt a spark, something warm in her chest when she looked at him. Lila sat by the small fire, the flames flickering in the growing dark. The woods around them were quiet, but every rustle of leaves made her jump. Ronan was across from her, his arm bandaged with her shawl, the cut already starting to heal. She watched him, amazed at how fast his body mended. It was one more reminder that he wasn't human, that this world she'd stepped into was full of things she didn't understand. "Why did they come after us?" she asked, poking the fire with a stick. "Those vampires, they looked like you, but angrier." Ronan leaned back against a tree, the stone still in his coat. "They're from a rival clan," he said. "We've been at odds for years. They want the stone to control everything, to wipe us out. When I took it, they sensed it, just like I did." Lila nodded, wrapping her arms around her knees. "And your clan?" "What will they think of me bringing it?" He looked at her, his gray eyes soft in the firelight. "They'll see you as a friend." "You helped me? That means something." She felt a warmth in her chest, not from the fire. Being with Ronan felt right, even with the danger. They ate some berries she'd picked earlier, sharing stories to pass the time. Ronan talked about old times, castles in the mountains, nights under stars that seemed brighter back then. Lila told him about village life, the simple joys like harvest festivals and helping babies be born. As the night deepened, they took turns watching. Lila tried to sleep, but her mind wouldn't quiet. When it was her turn, she sat up, listening to the woods. Ronan slept nearby, his breathing even and calm. She watched him, wondering what his life had been like before this. Lonely, he'd said. She felt a pull toward him, like she wanted to change that. Morning came with mist in the air. They packed up and kept moving north, the ground rising into hills. Ronan's arm was better, the cut just a scar now. They walked side by side, his presence making her feel safer. By noon, they reached a clearing with a small lake. They stopped to drink, the water cold and clear. "This is good," Ronan said, splashing his face. "We're making time." But as they stood, shadows moved in the trees again. More vampires, 4 this time, stepping out with snarls. The leader was a woman, tall and fierce, with long dark hair. "The stone," she demanded. "Hand it over, Alpha, or we take the girl too." Ronan pushed Lila behind him. "You'll have to go through me." The fight started fast. Ronan charged, taking down one with a swift kick. Lila ran to the lake's edge, grabbing a rock. She threw it at the woman, hitting her shoulder. The vampire turned, eyes flashing, and lunged at Lila. Lila dodged, tripping over roots. The vampire grabbed her hair, pulling her up. Pain shot through her scalp, but then Ronan was there, yanking the vampire away and snapping her arm. The others fell back, hurt but alive, and ran off into the woods. Ronan helped Lila up, his hands gentle. "You fought well," he said. She rubbed her head, breathing hard. "I'm learning." They didn't stop again until evening, finding a cave in the hills. Inside, It was dry, and Ronan built a fire. Lila sat close to him, the day's fear fading a bit. "How many more?" she asked. "Not sure," he said, "but we're close. One more day." That night, as the fire burned low, Lila leaned against him. His arm went around her shoulders, cold but comforting. She looked up, and their eyes met. Slowly, he leaned down, and their lips touched, a soft kiss that sent a spark through her. It was her first real kiss, and it felt like home. "We'll make it," he whispered. Lila nodded, her heart full. She slept in his arms, the cave echoing with the sound of their breathing. The next morning, they set out early, the mountains rising ahead like giants. The air was crisp, and Lila's legs ached from the walk, but she kept going. Ronan carried the stone, his steps sure. They talked less now, focused on the path, but the kiss from last night hung between them like a promise. By midday, they reached a pass in the mountains, a narrow trail winding up. Ronan stopped, sniffing the air. "We're close," he said. "My clan's hideout is just over this ridge." Lila smiled, relief washing over her, but as they climbed, shouts echoed from below. She looked back and saw villagers, led by Thomas, with torches and tools. "They followed us," she gasped. Ronan cursed under his breath. "They want the stone back." The villagers caught up fast, surrounding them on the trail. Thomas stepped forward, his face red with anger. "Lila, what have you done?" "That thing's dangerous. Give it back." "It's not yours," Ronan said, his voice low and warning. Lila stood between them. "Thomas, listen. The stone belongs to his people. Our ancestors took it. It's time to make it right." The elders murmured, but Thomas shook his head. "You don't know what you're saying." "It protects us from them." "No," Lila said. "It curses them." "Let it go." A fight broke out. Villagers swinging tools, Ronan pushing them back without hurting them too bad. Lila tried to stop it, shouting for peace. Then Thomas grabbed for the stone, and Ronan knocked him down. "Enough!" Lila yelled. "Take it, Ronan!" "Go." He looked at her, pain in his eyes. "Come with me." She hesitated, looking at the villagers, her home, but she nodded. "I will." They ran up the trail, the villagers falling behind. At the top, a hidden cave opened into a bigger space. Ronan's clan. Vampires gathered, pale and waiting. An older one stepped forward. "The Alpha returns." Ronan held up the stone, and it glowed bright. A wave of energy spread, and the vampires stood taller, their eyes brighter. "The curse is lifted," the elder said. Lila watched, amazed. Ronan turned to her. "You did this." She smiled. "We did." The clan welcomed her, seeing her as a hero. She stayed, learning their ways, healing them with her herbs. Ronan and Lila grew closer, their bond strong. The village forgave her in time, and peace came between them. Years passed, and Lila chose to become like them, to stay with Ronan forever. Under the stars, they walked hand in hand, the stone safe, their love eternal. But wait, that wasn't the end. There were more adventures, rival clans, new secrets. Lila adjusted to her new life slowly. The mountain hideout was cold but beautiful, with caves lit by glowing stones and views of the valley below. Ronan's clan was small, about 20 vampires, all with stories of loss. They treated her with respect, calling her the healer who brought back their strength. One evening, as she mixed herbs in a small room they gave her, Ronan came in. "How are you settling?" he asked, leaning on the door. "Good," she said. "It's different, but I like it." He stepped closer. "I meant what I said. You don't have to stay if you miss the village." Lila looked up. "I miss parts, but I'm here for you." He kissed her again, deeper this time, and she wrapped her arms around him. Their nights became filled with talks and touches, building a life together. But peace didn't last. A messenger arrived one night, a young vampire from another clan. "The rivals are gathering," he said. They want war for the stone. Ronan nodded. We'll be ready. Lila helped prepare, making salves for wounds and learning simple fights. When the battle came, in a snowy pass, she stood by Ronan's side. The fight was hard, but with the stone's power, they won. After, Lila knew this was her path. She and Ronan led the clan strong and united. The clan had rituals, like blood sharing under the full moon, but Lila eased into it. She visited the village sometimes, bridging the worlds. One day, she found an old book in the caves, Secrets of the Stone. It could heal more than vampires. She used it to help humans, too. Ronan proposed in a quiet moment, and they had a ceremony with both clans and villagers. Their love grew through dangers and joys. Lila in the cave, learning vampire lore from an elder named Mira. You have a gift, Mira said, even as human. Lila smiled. Thanks. Another scene, hunting with Ronan, learning to move quiet. You're natural, he said. She laughed. Hardly. But she got better. Fight scene. Rivals attack at night. Lila uses herbs to make smoke, confusing them. Ronan praises her. Emotional scene. Lila misses her grandmother, cries. Ronan comforts her. We'll make new memories, he says. They do. The stone's power lets them travel, see new lands. They visit forests, cities, always together. Lila becomes immortal, biting Ronan to change. Now eternal, their story continues. The cave where Ronan's clan lived was a world of its own. The walls sparkled with natural stone that glowed softly, casting a gentle light over the space. Lila stood near the entrance, taking it all in. The vampires moving quietly, some tending to old weapons, others sitting in small groups. They looked at her with curiosity, but no one came close until the elder, a woman named Mara with silver hair, approached. You're the one who brought our strength back, Mara said, her voice warm but firm. Welcome, healer. Lila smiled, feeling a bit out of place but grateful. Thank you. I just wanted to help Ronan. Mara nodded, her eyes sharp. He's been alone too long. You've given him more than the stone. Ronan joined them, the bloodstone tucked safely in a pouch at his side. She's part of us now, he said, his hand resting lightly on Lila's shoulder. The touch sent a warmth through her, grounding her in this new life. The clan settled into a routine over the next few days. Lila set up a small corner with her herbs, mixing salves and teas to help with the vampire's old wounds. They healed fast, but some scars lingered, and her remedies eased the pain. Ronan showed her around, teaching her the layout of the caves, hidden passages, a spring for water, a spot where they watched the valley below. One evening, as they sat by a fire pit, Lila asked, "What happens next?" "With the stone, I mean." Ronan looked at the pouch, then at her. "It's safe here for now. But we'll need to protect it. The rival clan won't give up. They'll come again." Lila nodded, her mind drifting to the village. She missed the familiar streets, the faces of her neighbors. Will they ever accept this? She wondered aloud. Some might, Ronan said. Thomas and the elders, maybe not, but time can change things. That night, they shared a quiet moment. Ronan pulled her close, and they kissed again, the cave walls echoing with the soft sound. It felt like a promise, a step toward something lasting. Lila fell asleep in his arms, the glow of the stones lighting her dreams. A week passed, and life in the cave grew comfortable. Lila learned names: Jasper, a quiet vampire who carved wood; Elise, who sang old songs; and Mara, who became a mentor. She taught Lila about vampire ways, how they fed on animals mostly, how the stone kept their hunger in check. It was strange but fascinating. One afternoon, while gathering herbs near the cave entrance, Lila heard a noise, a snap of a twig. Too loud for the wind, she turned, and her heart skipped. 3 figures stood at the tree line, vampires, their eyes glowing, the rival clan. "Run!" she shouted, racing back inside. Ronan and the others were there in seconds, weapons in hand. The attackers charged, and a fight broke out. Ronan took the lead, his strength unmatched, but there were more than before. 6, then 7. Lila grabbed her herb bag, mixing a quick smoke powder she'd made. She threw it into the air, and a thick cloud spread, making the vampires cough and stumble. Ronan used the chance to knock them back, and the clan fought as a team. It ended with the rivals retreating, but not without cost. Jasper had a gash on his leg. Lila tended to him, her hands steady. "You're brave," he said, wincing. "Just doing my part," she replied, smiling. Ronan came over, blood on his shirt but unharmed. "They'll be back with more. We need a plan." They gathered by the fire, the clan tense but united. Mara suggested a trap, using the stone as bait to draw the rivals in. "We know the caves," she said. "They don't." Ronan agreed, and Lila volunteered to help. "I can use my herbs to slow them down," she said. The plan was set for the next night. They moved the stone to a lower cave, leaving signs to lure the rivals. Lila prepared more smoke powders and a sleeping mix, hiding them in her pockets. As darkness fell, they waited, hearts pounding. The vampires came, 10 this time, led by the scarred man from before. They stormed the lower cave, and the trap sprang. Ronan and the clan attacked from the sides, while Lila threw her powders. The air filled with smoke and a sweet scent, and the rivals slowed, some falling asleep. The fight was quick, ending with the scarred man fleeing, his group broken. "We did it," Lila said, breathing hard. Ronan pulled her into a hug. "You're one of us now." The victory brought peace, but it didn't last long. Word spread, and the village sent a messenger, a young boy named Sam, who'd always liked Lila's stories. "They want you back," he said. "Thomas is sick, and they need a healer." Lila looked at Ronan, torn. "I can't leave you," she said. "You should go," he replied. "Help them." "I'll be here." She went, spending a week in the village. Thomas was weak, his anger gone. "I was wrong," he whispered as she tended him. "Keep the stone safe." When she returned, Ronan met her with a smile. "Missed you," he said. "I missed you too," she admitted. That night, they talked about forever. "I can make you like me," Ronan said, "if you want." Lila thought of her life, short, human, ending someday. She thought of Ronan, eternal and strong. "I want to stay with you," she said. The change was gentle. Ronan bit her neck, his fangs careful, and she drank from him. Pain turned to warmth, and she woke the next day as a vampire, her senses sharp, her body new. The clan celebrated, and Lila and Ronan led together. They visited the village, healing old wounds. The stone stayed in the cave, a symbol of their peace. Years later, under a full moon, Ronan took her hand. "Our story goes on," he said. Lila smiled. "Forever." Lila adjusted to her new vampire life with a mix of wonder and effort. The first few days were strange. Her senses were sharper, colors brighter, sounds louder. She could hear the drip of water deep in the cave and smell the pine trees miles away. Her body felt stronger too, lifting rocks she couldn't have moved before. Ronan stayed close, guiding her through it all, his patience a comfort. "You'll get used to it," he said one morning as they walked the cave paths. "It's like learning to walk again, but faster." Lila laughed, testing her speed by darting ahead, then stumbling into a wall. "Maybe not that fast yet," she said, rubbing her shoulder. Ronan chuckled, helping her up. "Give it time." The clan welcomed her fully now, seeing her strength and her healing skills. She continued her work, adapting her herbs for vampire needs, mixing them with a bit of their blood to help with old scars or lingering pain. Mara taught her how to hunt, showing her how to catch deer without harm, drinking only what was needed. It felt odd at first, but Lila found a balance, her healer's heart guiding her. One evening, as the clan gathered for a meal of shared blood from a hunt, Lila sat beside Ronan. The cave was warm with the glow of their stones, and the air carried the scent of earth and pine. "This feels like home," she said, leaning against him. "It is," he replied, his arm around her. "You made it that." But peace was fragile. A week later, a scout returned with news. The rival clan was rebuilding, gathering forces in the south. The scarred leader, who'd escaped, was rallying others, promising power if they took the bloodstone. Ronan called a meeting, and the cave buzzed with tension. "We can't let them get it," Jasper said, his carved wooden figures forgotten on the table. Elise nodded. "They'll destroy us if they do." Lila spoke up. "We need to talk to the village. They might help if we show them we're not the enemy." Ronan looked at her, surprised but thoughtful. "It's risky. They might turn on us again." "Maybe," she said, "but Thomas is sick. If I help him, they might listen." After some debate, the clan agreed. The next day, Lila and Ronan went down the mountain, the stone hidden in a pouch. The village was quiet, the fields empty. As harvest ended, they reached Thomas's house, and Lila knocked. His daughter Mary opened the door, her eyes wide. "Lila," she said, "you're back." "I am," Lila replied. "I want to help Thomas." Mary let them in. Thomas lay in bed, pale and weak, his breathing shallow. Lila knelt beside him, checking his pulse. "He's bad," she said. "I can try my herbs." She worked quickly, mixing a tea with her strongest plants. Ronan stood guard, his eyes on the window. Thomas drank, coughing at first, then settling. After an hour, his color improved, and he opened his eyes. "Lila?" he rasped. "Why?" "Because I forgive you," she said, "and we need your help." "The stone keeps peace, but others want it. Will you stand with us?" Thomas looked at Ronan, then nodded weakly. "If it means safety." "Yes." Word spread, and by evening, a few villagers, Mary, Sam, and others, agreed to help. They planned a defense, using the village as a shield. Lila trained them with her smoke powders, showing how to slow the vampires. The attack came 2 nights later. The rival clan stormed the valley, 20 strong, led by the scarred man. The villagers hid, and Lila's powders filled the air with confusion. Ronan and the clan fought, their strength boosted by the stone. Lila stood with Mary, throwing rocks and herbs, her new vampire speed helping. The battle was fierce, but the villagers' help turned the tide. The scarred man fell, stabbed by Sam with a pitchfork, and the rest fled. The valley was quiet again, blood staining the snow. The victory brought a fragile truce. The villagers and clan met in the hall, the air thick with mistrust but hope. Thomas, still weak but walking, spoke. "We've been wrong. The stone's yours, but we'll guard it together." Ronan shook his hand, a rare smile on his face. "Thank you." Lila felt proud, her 2 worlds joining. She and Ronan led the planning, setting up patrols and sharing resources. The clan brought strength, the villagers food and knowledge. Over months, a new life grew. Children played with vampire kids, and Lila taught healing to both. One spring day, Ronan took Lila to a hill overlooking the valley. "I want to ask you something," he said, kneeling. He held out a ring, carved from cave stone. "Will you be mine forever?" Tears filled her eyes. "Yes." They married under the sun, clan and village together, the stone glowing in the cave below. Lila's life was full, love, purpose, and a family that spanned both worlds. But challenges remained. Rival clans watched, and the stone's power drew attention. Lila and Ronan faced each test, their bond unbreakable. They traveled, spreading peace. Their story, a legend. One night, years later, Lila stood with Ronan, watching the stars. "We've come far," she said. "We have," he replied, kissing her, "and we'll keep going." Their love, like the stone, endured. The alliance between the village and Ronan's clan grew stronger with each passing day. The valley, once divided by fear, became a place of shared life. Lila spent her mornings teaching the villagers and vampires alike how to use her herbs for healing. adapting her recipes to suit both human and immortal needs. Ronan worked with the elders to set up a system, patrols to watch for rival clans, a signal fire on the hill to call for help. The bloodstone remained in the cave, guarded by both sides, its glow a symbol of their truce. Months turned into a year, and the scars of past fights faded. Children from the village played with the younger vampires, their laughter echoing through the hills. Lila and Ronan led with quiet strength, their love a steady force. One afternoon, as they walked the cave paths, Ronan took her hand. "You've changed everything," he said, his gray eyes warm. "This peace, it's because of you." Lila smiled, leaning into him. "We did it together." That evening, they held a celebration in the village hall. Tables were piled with food, bread, cheese, and roasted meat, while the clan brought wine aged in hidden caves. Music filled the air, and people danced, human and vampire side by side. Lila watched Sam twirl Mary, laughing, and felt a deep joy. This was her home now, in every way, but the world beyond the valley wasn't done with them. A traveler arrived one night, a weary man with news of a distant clan gathering forces, drawn by tales of the bloodstone's power. Ronan called a meeting, and the hall grew quiet as he spoke. "They'll come for it. We need to be ready." Lila stepped forward. "We've faced them before. We can do it again. Together." The plan was simple but bold. They'd fortify the cave entrance, use the village as a first line of defense, and rely on Lila's powders to slow the enemy. The clan trained harder, and the villagers learned to wield tools as weapons. Lila worked late into the nights, mixing her strongest batches yet, her hands steady with purpose. The attack came under a stormy sky, rain hammering the valley. 20 vampires charged, led by a new leader, a tall woman with cold eyes. The villagers met them with pitchforks and smoke, driving them back toward the cave. Ronan and the clan fought with fierce precision, the stone's power amplifying their strength. Lila threw her powders, the air thick with haze, and the enemy stumbled, confused. The battle turned when the woman reached the cave. Lila faced her, heart pounding, and threw a sleeping mix. The leader fell, and the rest broke, fleeing into the night. The valley was safe again, the rain washing away the blood. In the aftermath, the clan and villagers gathered in the cave. Thomas, now recovered, spoke. "We stand as one now. The stone stays here, guarded by all." Ronan nodded, placing the stone on a stone pedestal. "For peace." Lila stood beside him, her hand in his. The clan cheered, and the villagers clapped, a new bond sealed. Over time, the valley thrived, trade grew, stories were shared, and the Bloodstone's legend spread as a tale of unity. Years later, Lila and Ronan stood on the hill where he'd proposed. The valley spread below. Their hair was streaked with silver, a sign of their long life together. The clan had grown, the village prospered, and their love remained unshaken. "We built this," Lila said, her voice soft. "We did," Ronan replied, pulling her close, "and it'll last." Under the stars, they kissed, the wind carrying their story into the night. The bloodstone glowed in the cave, a silent witness to a love and peace that would endure forever. The valley became a place of legend, known for its harmony between humans and vampires. Lila and Ronan led with wisdom, their names whispered in tales. The bloodstone stayed safe, its power a gift, not a curse. And as the years stretched on, their story ended where it began, with a healer and a stranger, bound by fate and love, living eternally in the heart of the mountains.